What's going on? It's your boy Lionel, class of 2009, back for another episode of TV versus everybody. And tonight we just cool, just calm, we just collective. We're gonna just have a conversation on the SWAC by the numbers, all right? Just on the SWAC by the numbers. We're gonna look back at last year, see what the numbers say, see what the numbers tell us, right? Take a little deep dive. We also going to talk about this HBCU preseason top 10 poll. I got to bring that to you guys tonight as well, because, hey, we passed spring season. We're about to head into the summer. And then after that, man, fall ball is going to be here, and we're going to really get to rocking and rolling. So we're literally in May, almost mid-May now. So you're talking about June, July, and August will be right around the corner. This is going to go by fast, man. And so football season literally is almost upon us. We got the SWAC Media Day, July 15th. By the way, that's your boy birthday. I just want you to know. It's July 15th. The month of July is when kings are born, first and foremost. Let's just understand that. July is when kings are born. I don't know about other months, but I know in July, kings are born in July. Do your research, all right? Check it out. But other than that, July 15th, going to be SWAC Media Day. Listen, PV Nation is going to be in the building. So, we got to make sure we take care of that, cover that. But before we get to SWAC Media Day, there's some storylines and everything coming into this year. And we gotta have a conversation about those things as well. But first and foremost, I want to remind you guys, listen, if you have not done so already, follow us over on PV_versus_ everybody. And make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to this video. If you have not done so already, make sure you go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That's just going to help push it out. That helps the algorithm, right? You know what I'm saying? For people to go ahead and come over and catch and have a discussion with us. Because we're talking about the numbers today. Right? We're gonna pull up, we're gonna deep dive a little bit, talk about some PFF grades. We're talking about some different units around the SWAC this past year and see who really did some work, who really was doing some numbers, who really was moving people around, who really was making stuff pop, make stuff happen. So we're gonna have a conversation about that. And then also listen, 1,100 subscribers, that's our goal. All right, I think we're like 15 away. We just keep pushing along. Again, keep chugging along. So again, if you have enjoyed this content in any way, in any form, in any fashion, go ahead and show some love by going and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to drop the link too as well, because anybody has a desire to come on, jump on. Again, we got a couple segments this evening. We're going to look at some rosters. We're going to see who got some spring rosters up. See if we can have a conversation on rosters. See where everybody is. Things should be settled now. This is a new era. You don't have the spring portal window, so people are not jumping back in the portal. Teams are not going, and they ain't got to go back and re-recruit people. That don't got to happen. So at this point in time, teams hopefully should have a spring roster up, right? We're going to take a look around the SWAC, see what the rosters are. Going to have a little conversation on that. We're going to also talk about the SWAC by the numbers, okay? Going to look at some PFF grades. I'm just going to deep dive and have a conversation about where things were last year, what people finished, what people ended up. And again, talking about some returning guys in the conference, what it looks like for those guys, how can they prepare from where they ended last year. So we're going to have a conversation on that as well. And then also, like I say, we got this HBCU top 10 that we definitely got to have a conversation about, right? You know what I'm saying? But before we get into that, man, I got to show some love. Definitely got to show some love to my guy, all right? My guy, and you know who it is, PV alumni, none other than Jeff McKissick. He's a Texas licensed loan officer with Fairway Independent Mortgage Company, and he'll guide you seamlessly through the home buyer process. Look, many of us are unaware of our credit score or our true financial standing, but listen, Jeff will help you prepare a step-by-step plan so that you can make the home dream a reality, all right? And listen, I know this because me and him just finished partnering on, helping a client to close this past Friday, and so I understand how smooth it is working with a loan officer like Jeff McKissick. So again, if you are interested, man, don't wait. Just have the conversation, find out where you are so he can get you on the path to having a place for you to watch PV take care of business this year in the fall. All right. Because everybody needs a place for that. So make sure you got your place of your own so you can handle that, man. Don't delay. Talk with Jeff today so you can be in your home tomorrow. And listen, after you finish getting the loan in place, man, you already know, hit up your boy, Mansions by Lionel. See, I believe that just as God has prepared a mansion for you in heaven, that he has a special place for you to reside while on this earth. So listen, my job is just to partner with you and him to help find that perfect location. So again, after Jeff gets you right, you know what I'm saying, we're going to get together. We're going to find that special place for you, man. So with that said, listen, I want to go ahead and jump and get into it, man. We ain't gonna take a lot of time. We're gonna get straight into it. You know what I mean? We're gonna talk about real quick, real brief. We're gonna jump right into this HBCU top 25. All right. We're gonna talk about this HBCU top 10. All right. Talk about this top 10 list. Then again, we're gonna talk a little bit about some PFF grades, man. Just take a look at the SWAC around. Because, people always talking about the numbers, talking about what it was, what it is. But listen, Prairie View proved last year really what it was, right? You know what I'm saying? Prairie View proved themselves last year. So let's take a look real quick at this top 10 list. Let's take a look at this top 10 list that we got listed, right? First and foremost, I hate to even say it, right? I hate to even say it, but the reality is, man, South Carolina State, they got the job done last year. That epic comeback, 4 overtimes. I mean, it hurts. It still hurts, okay? That's just the reality. Anybody that ever played, anybody that ever had a team that they pulled for, I mean, that type of, to go down like it went down, to have all the opportunities that you had to close the game out and not be able to get the job done, it hurts. So you cannot have no one else other than Mr. 1-0 himself. All right, Chennis Berry. Mr. 1-0 himself. All right, you know what I'm saying? You talk about a coach that can motivate, a coach that can get a team ready to play, ready to ball. Listen, we know in T-Jack and how he's prepared a team, how he got a program. Listen, Chennis Berry knows how to build a program. Has that man a conference game in the last 4 years? How many years has it been since he lost a conference game? Not just on the D2 level, on the D1 level as well now. And you can say whatever you want to say about there only being 6 teams in the MEAC. Doesn't matter. That makes it even more important that every game really matters then. And he's able to get the job done. The man is 4 years in a row undefeated. He 4-0 because he done went 4 years through the conference unscathed. Okay. Celebration Bowl champs. The guys got to have the respect come back to the year. Now, they got a couple of new pieces that they have to fill in, have to figure out. Obviously, to continue to keep that train going. But do you not trust Chennis Berry to be able to do that? Has he not shown you that he has the ability to recruit? That he has the ability to fill in the right spots, to fill in those holes? He has shown you by now that he knows what he's doing. And so, at the end of the day, you got to trust him. You got to just say, hey, listen, I got to lean on South Carolina State. So, listen, the reigning, all right, the reigning HBCU champs got to be number one. Like, is there even a conversation? Does anybody even have a rebuttal? Okay, because they got to be the number one slot. Number 2, Prairie View A&M University. Obviously, you see it on the hat. Obviously, it's the alma mater. But listen, again, this is partially on. We look at last year. Look at what you built into the offseason. Now going into summer, fall. That's what this conversation is. That's how we look at the poll. When we look at Prairie View A&M and where they ended, I mean, the trajectory coming from the beginning of the year, and you can saw that they were building, right? You saw early on with the Texas Southern game, with the UTRGV, with the Northwestern State even. But as they started to go to the end of the year, you saw the momentum just pick up. And they just, listen, right? Just couldn't. We had one really bad half of football, but they closed it out. You're talking about first year coming in and winning a national championship. And so they're coming into this offseason. Now, listen, Prairie View, the thing that I think people don't recognize about Prairie View is that they have a lot returning to this team, more on offense and a little bit less on defense, right? But they have a lot returning to this team. And so they're not starting over from scratch. They're actually building on what they had last year and now putting something on top of that. And so it's going to be really interesting when you look at the different rooms. And obviously, I'm a little bit more familiar than probably a lot of people are. You got to be excited about what they have in multiple rooms. You feel like the talent is, again, taking the next step up and elevated again. And so you got to put them number 2 right here behind South Carolina State as the reigning SWAC champions coming into this offseason, right, with a lot of momentum, not just on the field, but offline as well. And so I got Prairie View A&M as number 2 spot. Now, number 3 and number 4, I know that there's a lot of people who probably will say, well, you got to flip this because Jackson State beat Alabama State. I know that there's a lot of people who are going to say, man, I'm seeing exactly how you're seeing it. There's a lot of people who probably would put Alabama State even in the number 1 spot, right? Because they're so high on Andrew Body. But listen, I have to say, again, it's based on where you finished last year, off season, back in this year. I think Alabama State is another team similar to Chennis Berry, similar to a Tremaine Jackson, where, listen, you have to say, you got to have some respect for Eddie Robinson and what he has done as far as continue to always bring in talent into the program. You have, I don't think you can doubt that Alabama State has had talent. You may have said that he has not done a great job over the last 4 years of choosing who his starting quarterback is going to be at all times, but they've always had a talented team. They've had problems getting talent and finding play. Listen, if one squad know how to find some 6'3" DBs, it's Alabama State. They know how to find some 6'3" DBs. So Alabama State coming back into this year, especially with Andrew Body coming back, especially when you got, listen, we talk about winning the SWAC. You talk about having 2 quarterbacks. You got to have multiple quarterbacks to win the conference. And if there's any team that got 2 quarterbacks, that for sure got 2 quarterbacks, it's Alabama State. with Andrew Body. And listen, Tayshaun Smoot played excellent last year at the end of the season when Andrew Body went down. But now, again, that caveat is there that I don't think in his entire college career yet, Andrew Body has made it through a full season. That's concerning. I mean, I don't care who you are. That's a concern. And it may have been a concern just on the open market in general when he goes out and he looks for another spot, because the reality is he hasn't made it through a full year yet. So it just is what it is, right? But it's a team that's on defense that also has a lot of pieces that are coming back that were young last year. So you expect that the defense will be better, even though, again, last year the defense did take a step back from what they were in previous years, right? You're talking about top 25, top 15 type defense over the last few years in the FCS. Definitely the top defense in the conference. So they definitely took a step back last year as far as, the points they allowed, a lot of numbers they put up. The offense played a part in that because they were putting some points on the board, scoring quick. So defense on the field a little bit more than they probably wanted to. But Alabama State, you got to slot them in at number 3. Just with all that's surrounding the program, just with the momentum they got. Listen, another big thing with Alabama State is Tony Hull. He's done a great job with offenses from Grambling State to UAPB and now coming into Alabama State. If you're going to lose Chris Barnett, hey, you did a great job of replacing him, bringing in Tony Hull, right? And so you hope that they are hoping that obviously you can still put together schemes that's going to lean on Andrew Body's strength, and also that they have receivers in that room that's going to be to take the place of some of the dynamic guys that they had last year, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing with Alabama State. Jackson State next up. Jackson State in the 4th spot. Obviously, Jackson State bringing some pieces back. Did lose some pieces, right? But they also have some pieces, and they also recruited and brought some new pieces in as well that they believe are going to be able to step into some starting positions, some starting roles, and to be able to do some things for them. And so you have to definitely slot them into the number 4 spot. I think the ding with Alabama State versus Jackson State, that, again, when you have the conversation overall, again, Jackson State won the game last year, very, very close game between them and Alabama State. But I think having 2 quarterbacks that have, again, we talk about the SWAC, talk about the last few years, you got to have 2 of them, right? And so that Jared Lockhart is coming back. You believe that he has some good years some good games under his belt from last year in his freshman season. Now he's coming in as supposed to gonna be the guy, right, to start the year off. And the question is, what is that year 2 gonna look like for him? Is he gonna take a step up? Is there gonna be a little shakiness, a little drop off? We got to determine that, right? And one thing we know, even though the question about Andrew Body, as far as how healthy is he going to be always, is he going to be to play the whole year? The reality is, when he's on the field, he's going to do some good things. Yeah, he's going to help you put some points on the board. He's going to put up some numbers, right? And so, again, is Jared Lockhart going to come into this year and elevate, right? Is he going to stay about the same? Is going to drop off? That's the question that waits to be seen, right? I think KJ Cooper is another guy that I think about with this, because this is a guy, now he didn't play as much time the previous year as Jared Lockhart played, right? But there was a lot of talk about KJ Cooper. And again, Texas Southern just hasn't been great on offense in general, so this may not be all KJ Cooper's fault. I think he left and went to like USF, South Florida, so obviously talent's there. But what did that year 2 look like, right? You didn't see an elevation from him that just he was able to take Texas Southern to the next level, right? The good thing about Jared Lockhart is in a better situation where there's just better talent around him at Jackson State. So again, is that running back room, that O-line that always has been solid, will they be able to continue to run the ball on the ground, to be able to move the ball down the field, and to make his job easier by making play action something that's always available? So again, right, he can get the ball to playmakers. But Jackson State, number 4, man. Now, North Carolina Central in my 5 spot here. They signed they had a nice signing class, especially a couple of the transfer pieces they brought in. I know one quarterback they brought in is looking to vie for that starting position and starting role out there. And at the end of the day, man, Trey Oliver has always shown that he's going to be right there. He again has, I think Trey Oliver and Eddie Robinson are very much in the same similar vein. Just as you can look and say, man, Chennis Berry and Tremaine Jackson is kind of in the same vein. You can really look at Eddie Robinson and Trey Oliver is almost in the same vein. Now, Trey Oliver is obviously got a championship, right? So let's be clear. He's got a championship, but there's been multiple years where Trey Oliver was a guy who people looked at and said, this is his team. This is another time for him to come back and get a Celebration Bowl title. And he just hasn't gotten the job done, man. He's faltered and failed to somebody one way or another. And so what is that going to look like this year, right? This is the first year, I think, in 4 years to where you didn't know. Well, outside looking in, obviously, he may already know who specifically that guy is going to be, right? And the name of that quarterback is slipping my mind right now, right? But he may know right now who his guy is going into this summer session. But the reality is, man, you knew Davius Richard was the guy. You knew Walker Harris was the guy. There was no question in terms of what North Carolina Central was going to do from the quarterback position, right? And so this is really an interesting year for North Carolina Central. But again, it's the pedigree of Trey Oliver, the pedigree of what he's been able to do just from a coaching standpoint and from development. You gotta believe that he's going to figure out a way to still be at the top of the MEAC and still have an opportunity, have a chance to be in that 1-game, 2-game playoff, right, at the top of this league. And so, unlike another team that you do not see on this list, right, I think Delaware State is going to be in trouble. I think they're going to see a drop-off, right? That first year building excitement, man, I don't know how much of that we see in the second year, but it remains to be seen. We got a couple months before the fall gets here, so we're going to see. But Delaware State, as you see, is not on this list. But North Carolina Central in the 5 spot. 6 spot, listen, I believe in the purple and gold, okay? The real purple and gold, of course, Prairie View University. But listen, sometimes fake purple and gold can do some things too. And so I think the fake purple and gold actually is I like the way they're trending. I like how they ended the season. I really did. I like how they ended the season. I like that. I like to see them go into the JUCO ranks, right, and get some guys that have quality snaps under them. Same thing that PV has done, right. I like that. So I think Alcorn is building something now. The thing about Alcorn, like if I look at the first, if I look at the first 5, Crook, what's your top 10 list? Give me your top 10 list. All right. So if you look at the first 5 guys, right? I think these are all solid coaches and coaching staffs that you can trust. They've won your trust in many ways, right? Some maybe not completely right. There's still some question marks for a couple guys, but I think when you start going down now, you start getting to the point to where you got some guys who have not yet won your trust. And I think when you talk about Alcorn State, you're talking about now coming to a coach and a coaching staff the way you say, man, I don't know yet if the coaching staff has what it takes to get this team over the hump to the next level to say Alcorn wins the West and makes it to the SWAC championship game, right? I think that's the difference between, say, 1 through 5 and the rest of this list. Now, obviously, you got a couple guys who still kind of fresh in the conference. And obviously super fresh at Florida A&M. But I think that's the difference right here with Alcorn. I like their team. I like where they're trending, right? You got Tolbert coming back, who came over from Alabama, from Howard. And he had a really good year, nice year last year, right? So now you have a quarterback that's already there in the system that you can build on. And can Alcorn also find that solid? If you can add what you had the year previously with a real solid and strong running game to what Tolbert can give you through the air, Alcorn's going to be dangerous because that's one of the issues early on trying to find a footing just offensively, right? And so I really like Alcorn. That's why I got them slotted in my number 6 spot. Number 7, Howard. Now, honestly, I know Howard also has a new situation, right? First of all, y'all don't know how we feel about Ted down here at PVMU, right? You know what I'm saying? Offensive mind, right? Obviously has history. You know what I'm saying? It's great when you bring a guy back who knows about the product, who knows about the program. And so obviously he wants to win for that, just for history and legacy sake. And I think Alcorn also has some pieces too. That's the thing. Alcorn is not starting from scratch, starting from zero. In a sense, I think like Alcorn, people may look at Alcorn may look at Howard as if they don't have much. But to me, I feel like it's the same, similar with Prairie View last year, where there were pieces that were on that team that were talented. And so it's going to be interesting to see what Howard looks like. Obviously, you're going to get to see it from the jump, week one with them. And they have a really good schedule too as well. So I'm really going to be interested in seeing Howard, especially through those first 6 games out of conference. That's the benefit of the MEAC, right? Being able to get your bumps and bruises in before you come into conference play. And so that's going to really be interesting to see what Howard looks like when you get to week 6, week 7, to see, man, are they a team that's ready to vie for a conference title? Or are they still a team that's maybe a year or two away? So, but I like Howard. I think they're going to be solid. I think they're definitely solidly that third team in the MEAC, who, if they can win one of those games against South Carolina State or against North Carolina Central, has a chance to possibly make it to the Celebration Bowl, right? Which they made a Celebration Bowl a few years ago. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. Obviously, a different coach, but still, program-wise, he's back. Now, number 8. I believe that I don't believe in Mickey. Let's be clear. I don't believe in Mickey. So again, that's why I said 6 through 10 is kind of like the coaches that they haven't really necessarily won your confidence. You say it like that, right? Crook said remove Grambling, add. So I don't know why Southern would be on the list at all. Remove Fam for Texas Southern. Okay, so you have Texas Southern number 10 and Southern number 8. Yeah, that's Southern not on the list at all. I mean, I could see. I don't know, man. Texas Southern. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a great year for Texas Southern. You know what I'm saying? I think this is going to be. I think they're going to start now moving in the opposite direction. I just think some of the pieces that went away is going to hurt them. It's almost like they start from scratch, in my opinion. But number 8, we're talking about Grambling, right? I do like Grambling's class. I'm not going to lie. I like what Grambling has signed in their transfer class. So I think Grambling does have some pieces there. Now, do they have enough to get over the Alcorn and the Prairie View hump in the West? No, I do not think they have enough to get over those 2 humps. But and again, we're talking about Mickey, right? I don't know. Mickey hasn't shown you that he has what it takes to yet make this team up to restore the order, as people try to say, right? He ain't got enough to restore the order, okay? He ain't got enough to restore. He had enough to restore the respectability of the G. Like, the G ain't gone no more. Like when Hugh Jackson was here, took the G away. They got the G back, right? But it's still a crumbling dynasty right now. It just is what it is. They still a crumbling dynasty. But I did like they signing class. I did. So I got them slotted as number 3 in the West right now. And so that's why I have them sitting at number 8. I think Graham's going to have a similar year they had last year, up and down year. They got a couple freebies early on, the D2 schools. So, they're going to end with 7-5. They're going to end with like 7 wins possibly, right? But in terms of what they did, in D1 competition, they're probably going to be even 5-5, right? So I think they're just an even, break even team. But I do think they have talent. I will say that. I do think they have talent. Number 9, Alabama A&M. I'm kind of higher on Alabama A&M. I'm just kind of waiting I need to see what this defense is going to look like. Sam Shade is supposed to be a defensive guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Alcorn and Grambling can be sneaky. I agree. And I really like Alcorn this year. From what I've seen so far. Now, listen, we ain't got to media day or the fall camp yet, but I'm just saying for right now, I like Alcorn at number 6. I got them the number 6 because to me they have that outside shot, that outside chance. But number 9, Alabama A&M. I really need to see what they look like defensively. Do they take a step? Do they make any improvements at all? Because they can just improve a little bit, a smidget, right? And we listen, we about to get into the numbers. We talking about by the numbers today, right? We're gonna talk about it, right? We're gonna look at some PFF grades. We're gonna have some conversations offensively, defensively, just SWAC overall. But Alabama A&M just was not good on defense last year. And if you're Sam Shade and that's your cup of tea, you got to be better defensively. That's my only thing. You got to be better defensively. And I think if they can, you know, if they can improve on that side of the ball, then I'm gonna really, really like Alabama A&M. And I feel like they're gonna figure some things out, and I think they're gonna clip some people this year in the East. I really do. I really do. And I've already said who I think they're gonna clip, but that don't change my preseason poll right now. I got on it. You know what I'm saying? And then number 10, listen, even though, you're talking about Quinn Gray getting just you're talking about a rough start, man. That's a rough idle. Okay, that car is rough idling over there in Tallahassee, but I still think they have some talent over there. Obviously, bringing a couple of pieces from Albany State with them too as well. We've seen this multiple years at this point, right? You know what I'm saying? With the D2 guys coming up and the impact they have on the D1 level with the coach that they played with previously. So how many times you got to see before you know like it's going to have an impact? But obviously they can't play for the postseason, which is tragic for him when you won. But also it could be good in the long run overall for program wise. Because listen, I mean, you get a year that you just like it's a mulligan, right? Whatever happened this year, he's not going to be judged super hard on it because in the day, the fans already know you can't get the postseason. So from his standpoint, it's you want to be able to play the postseason, right? But overall, from the length of your contract, from being in place and having time to build what you're trying to build, it's good for him overall. But yeah, I still think they got some talent, man. And so I have them slotted at number 10. I don't Southern didn't do anything in the offseason that made me say, yeah, they're gonna be a team to reckon with. Same thing with Texas Southern. You know what I mean? Same thing with Texas Southern. They didn't do anything to make me say, do that, right? So you say my list is crazy. Joe, what's crazy about the list? You know what I'm saying? I don't see said getting fired. Possibly, right? If this year don't go well for Alcorn, but he ended the year well, man. I like what they was building toward the end of the year. I think Alcorn is going to have a good year. I really think Alcorn going to have a good year. I'm saying the fake purple and gold going to do well. Joe, what's wrong with my list? What's wrong with the list? I don't see what's wrong with the list, to be honest, right? I got South Carolina State number 1, HBCU national champs, Chennis Berry 4 years in a row. He done been undefeated in the conference. You can't say nothing wrong with number 1 slot. You can't be mad at number 2. Prairie View won the SWAC championship. Tremaine Jackson as a coach, right? Look at what he's done in his previous year. That's why I say, looking at the program, looking at the talent, look at the coaches, right? Eddie Robinson, number 3. Again, you can swap Jackson with Alabama State, in my opinion. But again, you got to look at, when you look at the QB room for both of those teams, you got to say, man, talking about Andrew Body coming back, and you got Smoot there too as well when Andrew Body went down. So even if he goes down, you got Smoot, who already showed you last year that he can get the job done, right? You know what I'm saying? And Eddie Robinson continues to get talent. You know what I'm saying? You had a defense that slid back last year, but again, many of those guys are coming back. So you know that you have to believe that they're going to improve, right? Again, Jackson, number 4. North Carolina Central, number 5, who's always perennial they've been number 2 in the MEAC the last 2 years or whatever, 2-3 years anyway, right? You know what I'm saying? So can't be mad at that. You mad at Alcorn? Who you gonna? You're gonna put Grambling in front of Alcorn, Southern, UAPB, Texas Southern, Bethune. Who going in front of Alcorn? Maybe putting Howard in front of Alcorn. Okay, cool, maybe possibly. You know what I'm saying? You believe in Grambling a little more, but I think Alcorn ended the year stronger than Grambling. I think Alcorn. Now, I do think Grambling had a really good offseason. Now, like I said, I like that class. But I like Alcorn. I like Alcorn's JUCO signings too. So you got to tell me what's wrong with the list. I don't see nothing wrong with the list. What do FCS pundits see about Jackson State to rank them 23 versus South Carolina State, PV, and Alabama State? Well, Well, one, right? Let's this is not FCS pundits, right? This is only Craig Haley, who does have a real vote for the actual FCS poll, right? So he is an actual voter, but that what he put out was his top 25 list. So let's be clear what that was, right? That's Craig Haley's top 25 list. That wasn't the actual top 25 list. That's the official top 25 list based on all of the voters who put their list in, and now it has been accumulated, right? So just to understand, right? That's what that was. So even though I still have a problem with it, obviously, um, but that was just that one person's list. It wasn't an actual official list. Okay. Even though he is an actual official voter. So I hope I'm making sense here. Okay. So I mean, there's just like how right now I'm showing my top 10 list and I'm giving respect to South Carolina State based on what they've done previously. I'm giving respect to Prairie View and Tremaine Jackson based on what he's done previously. I'm really giving respect to Trey Oliver based on what he's done previously. I think there's going to be some FCS voters who are going to give respect to Jackson State because they've been in the SWAC championship, like 4 of the last 5 years. They've been ranked in the top 25 in FCS, maybe 4 or 5 times, maybe like every year the last 5 years, right? So there's going to be people who are going to lean on their history. That's just the reality of the situation, right? So I'm not knocking Craig Haley per se, right? You know what I'm saying? I just think there's other HBCUs that deserve to be considered, either receiving votes, right, or to be ranked in the top 25, right? I can, you know what I'm saying? So that's just the thing, right? And I think when the cumulative comes out, right, you're going to see that there's going to be a good mixture. I think those 4 schools, South Carolina State, Prairie View, Alabama State, and Jackson State, you're going to all see them somewhere in that mixture of either being a 24, 25 or right outside of that top 25 receiving votes. I think that's what the reality is going to be because all these teams really, they do deserve, you know what I'm saying, some credence, some credit, and again, some history. Now, all FCS voters and pundits don't necessarily all cover HBCUs the same way others do. So there's also going to be some just bias in the sense of I'm just going off of what, I've known, I've heard, right? And again, that's where the benefit of being ranked previously, is going to come in. So, yeah, I don't think it's, again, I'm just explaining everything all over. It wasn't everybody. It wasn't a true FCS poll. It was one FCS voter who does have voting rights who gave his top 25 list and had Jackson ranked 23. PB12 checking in. What's going on, man? Got y'all in the building. You know what I'm saying? Those transfers have no tape. I don't know which transfer you're talking about right now. Maybe I got to go back because maybe I missed something, right? You know what I'm saying? Said high schools will be better than those 0 transfers that play little boy football. Every transfer ain't built the same, right? So I don't know what the conversation is, who you talking about right now, because I probably missed it. Every transfer ain't built the same, right? They're a FCS transfer with snaps and a D2 transfer. Hey, matter of fact, let's do this. Y'all give me a transfer name, right? Because again, we're gonna talk about the numbers tonight. So y'all give me some transfer names. I'm about to pull up the PFF. We can have a conversation about transfers and see like what they actually did, what it actually looked like. Did they touch grass or was they on the sideline all the time? We can have that conversation. You know what I'm saying? We can see because every transfer ain't built the same. There's transfers. When you talk about Trevor Randall last year at Prairie View, that's not the same thing as a guy who transferred down from FBS who didn't have no playing time. Like Trevor Randall had over 100 tackles over the last 2 years at ULM, started 2 years at ULM before he came to Prairie View. That's a quality transfer, right? You know what I'm saying? If you're talking about Isaiah Knowles, right, who going to FAMU this year, you're not talking about a guy who sat on the bench at Albany State. You're talking about a guy who started, right, and did numbers, won a conference and went to the playoffs and put up numbers in D2. And we know D2 got quality talent, right? We should know that by now, right? That's not the same type of transfer, okay? So every transfer ain't built the same. You got to know like who we're talking about, what they did. That's why JUCO products are important. That's why you see even SEC schools coming to get JUCO guys because guys in JUCO have touched grass. They've been on the field as a quality transfer. You see what I'm saying? So every transfer ain't built the same. So we got to talk about no Delaware State. Now, I think Delaware State is going to take a drop off. They've also lost a lot of pieces. They lost a lot of pieces from that team from last year too, as well. That's the other thing. You know what I'm saying? That's another thing. Now, the good thing is, I believe Marquise, and let me pull it up right now. Let's see if Delaware State got their roster online. But I believe they get their quarterback back this year as well, because he played the year prior and had a good year. And then tried to transfer. He didn't end up not transferring anywhere and coming back on the team, but he set out the year because Caden Bennett had come from Sacramento State. So I believe he's on the roster still. So him being there helps tremendously. But let me see. Yeah, they don't have their 2026 roster up. They don't got their 2026 roster up, but let me see if I can. Yeah, they don't have a 2026 roster up. So I can't for sure say, but Marquis Adam last year was a redshirt junior. So he should be back if he didn't transfer out. You know what I'm saying? If anybody knows if he transferred or not, y'all let me know. But Caden Bennett was there last year. He was a grad student, so he should be done. But they should get Marquis Adams back. Let me see if I can find out if Marquis Adams transferred or not, real quick. Still showing quarterback at Delaware State on his X profile. So, yeah, it's still showing on his X profile that he's at Delaware State. And yeah, I see some spring ball stuff he done shared. So he should be back. So that's a benefit for them, right? That's definitely a big benefit for them, for him coming back. But man, they had like stable running backs last year too. I think the kid that transferred from Jackson is still there too as well. I think Boykin. So he should still be there too as well. So they have a couple pieces, but I just think they're gonna drop off. That's why I got the numbers. This list is solid based on what we know now. Yeah, for sure. He said there's a chance to have no tape. I'm not going off of high school tape. Rocky said, based on recent history, returning quarterback JSU should be above PV. Recent history was Prairie View just beat Jackson State. So, I mean, that's recent history. But if you want to come share your thoughts, Rocky, well, I mean, be my guest. But recent history is they're not the SWAC champions. So, let's see. So if that's what we're going off of, I want the ones that play real big boy high school football. All right. Anyway, all right. You say so you would swap Delaware State with Alabama A&M. Oh, okay. That's cool. Isaiah said he agrees with that. Recent history, that's what we're doing now. Listen, recent history is Prairie View just won the SWAC. What are we talking about? Like, what are y'all talking about? Prairie View just won the SWAC. That's recent history. I don't know what the conversation's about right now. There we go. See, Zach, come put some real thoughts in here. That's all I'm trying to say. So you have no questions with Delaware State? You have zero questions with Delaware State. You got zero questions with Delaware State at all. What's going on, Vice President? How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you, bro?
Oh, sorry. My bad. I read that wrong. What's going on, sir? How are you doing, Zay?
I'm good. So real quick, while we kind of have a captive audience, and I know Zach is kind of tuning in, I just wanted to get some clarity because I'm a little confused with how it would work out. I know for Prairie View, we have a real chance at potentially being ranked in the top 25 this fall, right? Depending on some key games. particularly SFA and Tarleton, right? So let's say we split those games. Let's say we drop Tarleton and beat SFA, or you can flip it either way. How does the voting committee typically look at, right, that putting us into the top 25? Because I would imagine when the list come out, we're either on the bubble or somewhere right below that, before the season starts. So we get through the first 4 games, we're playing Grambling, and we split those games, right? First 4 or 5 games. The question is, how does the FCS look at that, and how do we realistically get into the top 25?
That's a Zach question. Zach, I don't know if you want to jump on real quick and answer the question,
Oh,
or
yeah,
you
you
can
can
answer
just
the
answer it in
comments.
the comments as well. I mean, I just
Yeah,
want to jump on.
you can also answer the comments too. So just let us know. I'm about to pull up. We about to get into it, man. That's what we're here for, right? We here to talk. We here to talk ball tonight. So you know what I'm saying. I'm about to pull up. Y'all want to talk about Delaware State? We're gonna start with Del State then. All right. We're gonna start with Del State. I see Rocky Miller is in the chat. Hopefully it looks like, by the way, it looks like Rocky has found a seat. So I'm happy he found a seat. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. People was talking about something about a seat, you know what I mean, the other day. But it's good to have you on too, brother. I know you had shared a thought about Jackson being above Alabama State and Prairie View. So I don't know if you want to share your thoughts while Zach types his comments in the chat, and I'm gonna get Delaware State up real quick. But can you hear me? Rocky, can you hear me?
Hold on a minute.
He getting his stuff together. But I'm while we waiting on Zach to respond, you know what I'm saying? I think at the end of the day, when you look at both Stephen F. Austin, who won the Southland Conference, right? And you look at Tarleton State, who won a share of the UAC, right? I guess you can say lost because Albemarle Christian was tied with them. They beat them. So, finished second, but they were a top 5 program, right, last year. They're going to be a top 10, regardless of whether they 5 or 7 or whatever they end up or where they land, right? They had one of the top transfer portal classes. You got to think this would be my question, right? Or my thought process. If Prairie View beats Stephen F. Austin or Tarleton State, who else in the SWAC could have a better out of conference win in 2026? Period. That's just the first question. Period. Who else in the SWAC could even have a better out of conference win? The answer to me is now, unless one of these schools go out and be the FBS program, obviously, right? So I guess if you said Alabama A&M or Bethune or somebody like that, because they be the FBS program, then yeah, for sure, right? But there is no other school in the SWAC that could even have a better out of conference win, because if you're talking about the 2 best FCS programs on all of our schedules next year, those are the 2 best programs on all of our schedules. So to me, if that don't get Prairie View respect as a top 25 program, then what we doing, right? You know what I'm saying? Well, but I think it would get respect because, again, go ahead. Man, go ahead.
Oh, just say, to add to why I'm asking the question is really more so, I mean, naturally, we'd like to keep our options open at PV and have an opportunity to compete in the FCS playoffs in the event we don't make SWAC championship, right? Now, for that scenario to play out, we would also need a team in the West to be just as good, or if not slightly better than us, which as of now I don't see happening, but that's neither here nor there. The real reason why I'm asking is because when you look at the SWAC tiebreaker policies,
Right.
and we're trying to host a championship, that's where Jackson has had the edge on us, is just being in the ranking, even though they're not going to do anything with it. So for us, that's really more so why I'm asking. Is like, we want to have a legit shot at hosting, and so our fans need to be very clear on what we need to get accomplished in order to do that. So that's why I'm asking.
No, that's a good point, right? Because it actually had a factor last year because we didn't play Jackson. Jackson had 1 loss, we had 1 loss, so the tiebreaker was the top 25, right? Because I think that was the 4th tiebreaker, right? So you're right. It did play a factor last year. So it really is important at the end of the day. I just want to pin a pin in this real quick before we read Zach's comment. Adrian Cook said PV defense was nasty all over last year. I just want y'all go ahead and take a screenshot of that because just take your screenshot real quick because that acknowledgement from Adrian Cook. You know what I'm saying? Who never acknowledges anything. So, but Zach says PV probably will be right outside the top 25 initially if they play Tarleton close and beat Texas Southern, Stephen F. Austin. And then they'd be around number 20 or so after week 4. If they upset Tarleton State, then you're around top 10 and top 15. So.
Well, one last thing. I think Rocky said he's ready to come on stage. Lionel, by the way. But this is my last question, and I'm going to jump off. So Rocky especially always talks about like the narrative and perspective of how Texans and regional folks look at PV as a program, right? A lot of people try to tie us to our losing streak. In the event we go on to beat either both Tarleton and SFA or split the game, what is you guys' I kind of know what you're gonna say, but what is the new narrative, right, moving forward, so we can stop hearing about 0-80 and more about what we're doing in these days? And then I'm gonna jump off. Appreciate you.
So ask it one more time so I can understand.
Yeah. So long story short, a lot of people still, even with our current success, a lot of people still try to tie us to what they know of us or what they think they know of us from back when we were not winning, right? We go on to have this amazing schedule this fall. What is the new narrative for Prairie View moving forward, right, in the state of Texas, regionally, and beyond?
That's a good question. I'm gonna let Rocky Miller talk to that and see what his thoughts is. The tiebreaker, no, it wasn't. The tiebreaker wasn't JSU beating Alabama State and PV losing to it, right? If you look at the SWAC bylaws, right, the fourth tiebreaker when two teams haven't played each other, right, is the ranking in the top 25 for FCS. Rocky, what's your thoughts on the question put forth by Zay from 107 Panthers? By the way, if you have not followed him on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, make sure you follow my guy 107 Panthers. Man, he's doing some great work for Prairie View, putting the narrative out. But Rocky, what are your thoughts? If Prairie View comes out and beat a SFA or a Tarleton State, right, and goes on to win SWAC and Celebration Bowl, whatever, does that change anything?
Well, let me say this. First off, I want to say thank you, Lionel, for having me on, man. I appreciate it. But I'll say this: Prairie View is in a unique situation this upcoming year, right? Prairie View can go from what I would consider a mid-tier football program in the state of Texas to be recognized as an elite FCS program if everything goes right this year. Subsequently, with that becoming the narrative, that literally changes the entire brand coming off an appearance in the Celebration Bowl. If they beat Stephen F. Austin at home, if they beat Tarleton at home on the road, and I think they host Stephen F. Austin, is that correct? Or are they on the road to Stephen F.?
We host Stephen F. Austin. We go to Tarleton.
Yeah. You go to Tarleton, host Stephen F. If you guys can get 2 victories in both of those games, right, you become, in my opinion, coming off what happened at the Celebration Bowl, you guys become the preeminent FCS program in the state of Texas, no doubt about it, because of what you guys did in the celebration by making it to the Celebration Bowl, having 2.3 million people view that game, coming back, beating Tarleton in the opener, and then beating Stephen F. Austin a few weeks later. I don't think there's any doubt that you guys will be recognized as a top FCS school in Texas, or if not the top FCS school, a top FCS school. No doubt about it. And if that is the case, y'all become the bully of the SWAC, because we know how other SWAC schools schedule and how they perform against other non-Black FCS programs.
Yeah, that's big. I wouldn't even think, to be honest, I wouldn't even think it would be that quick. You know what I'm saying? I kind of feel like you need a couple years of winning. But I think that's interesting.
Well, what I'm saying, you got to understand, you guys were catapulted on the national scene by playing in the Celebration Bowl. That was one of the most highly viewed Celebration Bowls in America. And again, though Prairie View lost the game, it was a tremendous showing by both programs. You understand what I'm saying? It was a tremendous showing by both programs. You can focus on the loss for sure. However, when you look at the game and the gameplay and what transpired in those 4 hours and what it represented, how it represented Black college football, in my opinion, I don't know if there's been a more significant game since Deion's first Celebration Bowl, in my opinion. Because it didn't have the celebrity draw to it, yet it was wildly popular. And up to this point, I haven't talked to anybody who hadn't seen the game. You know, any football fan for that matter, who hadn't seen the game. So coming off of that, right? And you got to understand, think about this, Lionel. You come off a close loss in the Celebration Bowl, and your first game out, if you guys defeat what would it be? A semifinalist, quarterfinalist in the FCS playoffs?
Quarterfinalists last year. They lost to Villanova in the quarterfinals.
Come on now. That would validate you, and to be honest with you, that would not only validate Prairie View, that would validate Black college football as being legit.
Yeah.
With those games, you got to understand, those are 2 consecutive games, not in the same year, but that would be Celebration Bowl and a win against a playoff caliber team.
Right. Hey, listen, BC, I don't know who BC 4780 is. Yeah, listen, man. I would agree with Mr. Graves, right? Overall. Now, from an overall macro perspective, FCS, beating SFA at Tarleton, the FCS space is definitely going to see that respect, right? But Celebration Bowl is way bigger in the HBCU space than beating SFA at Tarleton, right? You know what I'm saying? That's why at the end of the day, it really got to be both and not either or. You know what I'm saying?
You're talking about both. Well, I think I'll say this, Lionel. If you guys go Celebration Bowl, a win against Tarleton, those 2 moments, right, crystallize a point that Prairie View is a top-notch FCS program. Those two moments.
No, for sure.
Looked like Lionel jumped off here for a second. I guess I'm
still here. I was just plugging my computer in, but you know, Joe, I still come. Did you have a thought about what Rocky was saying, or did you have something else? Because if you had a thought about what we're talking about now, I'm gonna let you go. But if not, I want to get Rocky's response to the statement before too as well.
Nah, I just had a comment about this HBCU top 10 list that you got.
Go ahead then. Yeah, go ahead. By the way, everybody, just to let y'all know, just so we can set the framework, right? This is a Jesus channel, so ain't you know, everybody gotta watch their words here. So I just want to let everybody. Just making sure, because I don't know where everybody's coming from, so I just gotta remind everybody.
No.
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
I'm trying to understand this HBCU poll. It's just according to HBCU or according to FCS, because I don't understand how, if the FCS is what the division we playing in, and teams that's ranked in the FCS not at the top of the list, but teams that's not ranked in the FCS is at the top of the list. How is that possible? Is this according to your views, or is you according to the whole? We're going by FCS because Jackson State is ranked in the coaches poll in the FCS. Alabama State is ranked in the NCAA poll in the FCS. Prairie View not ranked. South Carolina State got they ranked. I think they're ranked in the coaches poll. So how's Prairie View not even ranked in the FCS poll? I'm talking about all FCS. But in HBCU, they ranked higher than teams that's ranked in the FCS poll. How is that possible? Can you explain to me?
Well, one, there has been no FCS 2026 poll out, period, right?
Yes, it has.
We still waiting for that, right? So
no,
what you saw was one voter. They put out their top 25 list, right? So
the coaches poll.
If you got the coaches poll, show me. I haven't seen the coaches poll, right? So I don't know. Maybe
I'm in my truck. I ain't on the computer. I'm in my truck, so I ain't got access to all that.
So if I'm mistaken, somebody can put it in the chat, right? I pull up the coaches poll, right? But from what I understand, it's just from my understanding, right? Craig Haley, who is a voter for FCS, right? He does some great work, right? So obviously I'm messing with him, but you know, he put out a top 25 poll, his personal top 25 poll, which will be a part of the cumulative FCS poll because he is a true voter, right? He ranked Jackson State number 23 in his personal poll, right? So that's where the whole conversation came from, right? You know, about it, but that's not the full coaches poll yet, right? Because we're still waiting on that to come out. So again, Jackson may still be ranked right in the top 25 poll when it comes out. You know what I'm saying? They've been ranked for the last 5 years. So it wouldn't be a shock if they ranked this year.
Oh,
but I'm just explaining what we discussing though. That's all.
I'm gonna
because that's just like the last, you know what I mean, at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, with the Jackson State ranked number 3 and all, and people having Alabama State ranked ahead of Alabama and all that stuff. But I'm trying to figure out, because if the FCS poll says one thing, but the HBCU poll says another, they just say the FCS poll has Prairie View ranked number 19, but the HBCU poll has them ranked last. How is that impossible? Are we playing in the FCS or we not playing in the FCS?
Yeah, but you know, you got, again, the polls are all based on opinion, right? Now, it's people's opinion based on what they see. Some people judge more on eye test, right? Some people judge. Everybody got different reasonings for how they make their polls, right? But that's why you got a cumulative poll. That's why you may have 40 voters. We take all 40 voters' polls, the points for each position, and that's where you get the cumulative poll out of, right? So that's why maybe Alabama State could be higher on the HBCU poll but then they're not even ranked another poll in Jackson rank, right? Because again, everybody votes for different reasons, and that's how you get there. And the two polls are separate, right? HBCU poll has different individuals who vote for that versus who the FCS poll and voters are for their poll. I think on Zach, one of Zach's last year, right, when they posted one of their poll lists, right, and his top 25, at the bottom it shows like all the voters, right, for the FCS, right? It'll show you all the different writers and columnists who actually have
I stand correct. I see Zach said it's not coming, so I guess I'm reading something wrong. Okay, I guess I read pull up the wrong poll. So I stand corrected. I stand corrected. When I'm wrong, I like to say that I'm wrong. So I stand corrected.
For sure.
I take Blue words because Blue's an FCS guy. So I stand. If he said it's not there, then I stand corrected. Maybe I looked at something.
No. It's just a misunderstanding, right? Somebody did put out a top 25 poll. He is an actual voter for the FCS.
Okay.
But it's not the official one yet, right? So when everybody puts that in, like he's saying August, that would be the official one. So that's what it's just a misunderstanding.
All right. All right. I stand corrected. I ain't gonna hog the show. I stand corrected. So I apologize.
You good. So
I appreciate I'm gone, boss.
Yeah. But hey, Joe. I was going, because I think he had said Delaware. He liked Delaware State in there too. But anyway, go ahead, Rocky. He was about to say something too as well.
No, only thing I was gonna say about I posted the Stan Becton poll. I put the link in the.
Let me see if I can pull it up. But go ahead, you can talk about it.
Yeah, and Stan Becton has Alabama State at 21, and so I don't know if Stan Becton is a voter. I don't know his role with the NCAA.
Yes, I believe he has a vote too as well. He has an official
vote. But this was released on February the 5th of this year, so it was really, really early. It was really, really early. So my point is saying it is these polls that come out now, and even the preseason polls that will come out in August, right, are all based on speculation, right? And I don't think with all the transferring that's happening at the college level now, I think preseason polls are as useless and as pointless as they've ever been, in my opinion, when you think about it. Because when you do one on February the 5th, and then and that's projecting to how things will end up being in August, the last weekend in August. I think there's a lot to be determined at that point. So, we're literally looking at performance last year of certain players and name and reputation of program. Wouldn't you say, Lon? For the most part, if you put the ranks out now.
I think for sure, right? I mean, I think some people are a little bit more detailed than others, right? So I don't think everybody is that way. That's why some people wait to.
For some reason, you're not on the screen, or is that just on mine?
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Hold on, it's not recognizing my camera. But yeah, I think again, like I said earlier, I think that's dependent on the person, right? That's why some people wait to after spring because they are doing a little bit more. Again, it's all speculation, though. Yes, I agree with that. At the end of the day, of course, it's all speculation because we only judging based on previous history and also information that we have now in the spring, for sure.
And with 8 months to go, that can really change, based on this poll. Now, I think right now, with spring ball being over, rosters being closer to a finished product than it was earlier this year, still there's some movement that's going to go on this summer. But I think there's a closer, but what you don't know, and Prairie View kind of proved that last year, was you really don't know how the talent will show up on the field for the entire season, because I'll say in Prairie View's point, because I've watched them the entire season, what they were against Texas Southern in the Labor Day Classic, they were something totally different when they showed up in Jackson State on the first weekend in December.
Oh, for sure. And that first hit, and everybody knew after that first series too.
Yeah, they were something different. So I don't think so that there's collection of talent that you're evaluating, but how they will perform is some totally different, in my opinion. How they'll perform is going to be determined by how they're prepared by their coaching staff and things of that nature. That's where I think Prairie View in particular on the west side, and I'm gonna just put them on the west. That's where I think Prairie View has a huge advantage in the SWAC West, is the coaching advantage. And I'm not talking about, this is not based on my opinion. This is based on resume. Right. Based on resume, Tremaine Jackson and the other coaches in the West, they are worlds apart from one another. Worlds apart. Again, when you look at the success Tremaine Jackson has had, when you look at the resume that he's put together as far as wins at the Division II level and what he was able to accomplish there, then what he came in and did in his first year in the SWAC, is there anybody in the West that can hold a candle to that? I'll wait.
No, for sure.
I mean, and that's what I'm saying. So if everything is equal in the West, right? Who do you pick coming out the gate in the West? You got to pick Prairie View. And for that, in and of itself, that puts Prairie View in the catbird seat, in my opinion, because they can have a mediocre team, in my opinion, from a talent standpoint, and still end up in the game because of superior coaching.
Right. There was a statement that Coach Jackson made, and I'm failing to remember which press conference it was in. If somebody can remember, if one of my PD folks can remember which press conference it was, I could actually pull it up. But he made a statement. He was asked a question by one of the reporters, and essentially he was asked a statement about the talent and everything last year. And he made it clear, said, man, we weren't the most talented team last year. We beat teams that we did not have more talent then, right? But he then started to speak about programs up in the Midwest, right? And he spent some time at Sioux Falls, right? Obviously, we went to Colorado Mesa, et cetera. But he talked about a way that they did things, right, and the way they built their program, right? He always talks about program. He hear them all the time, over and over and over again. And to me, what he was sharing there was like, okay, I'm kind of seeing it, right? I think I get it. I think there's something else there that he understands and has learned that that makes him be able to establish successful cultures to be able to win no matter where he goes. And I think some schools have figured that out, like, Montana State, North Dakota, you know what I mean? Like, they figured it out. But you also see this with other coaches as well. That's why you will see a coach that starts off like a Cincinnati that goes from one program to the next, and he still wins everywhere he goes. He has learned something, right, of how to win. There's something he's learned, because every coach can't do that. But you do see that on certain coaches, right, throughout multiple ranks, whether D3, D2, D1, FCS, FBS, you see that, right? And I think T-Jack is really one of those guys who has learned whatever that thing is, right? And when we had the DB coach on, Coach DG, you also heard him say some of the similar things, right? Of like, this is what makes the difference between a winning program, a winning culture, and a program that has good talent but can't win a championship, right? And so I really think it's unique and interesting. And I would tell you, Rocky, it was actually when I was reading up on Tremaine Jackson, this before he got hired. This was when he was just one of the names that was circulating. And so I was just finding different interviews he did, right? That's when it was that offseason that I really started to realize, man, how much coaching it really is. We don't give enough credence to coaching in terms of how coaching actually affects the real game, right? With one player, somebody can get way more out of them than another coach can, right? This is facts. If we all stop and think about it, we'll say, you know what? That's facts. We all probably have seen it at some point in our life, whether it's Little League, whether it was a high school team, whether we played ball in college, that we've seen, man, one coaching staff was able to get more out of you, able to accomplish more than another coaching staff with the same talent, right? With the same players. So I don't understand how, at least in my mind, right, because I can't say for anybody else, I don't understand how I didn't understand that and give that much credence until like a year and a half ago. Like, man, coaching actually affects way more than I'm giving it credence for. You know what I'm saying?
I think one of the reasons is because from a news cycle standpoint, people pay more attention to talent acquisition. It makes more news nowadays. You know what I mean? It makes more news to say who you sign, what the classes were ranked, so on and so forth, right? But what Tremaine Jackson was able to show, if you come in with a plan, and you identify what players fit your scheme, system, and culture, right? What can be done? Because that's all, in my opinion, Tremaine was able to get done in his first year, right? He was able to establish a system and a culture, and he had players that bought into that system and culture, even though it took probably 4 or 5 games for them to really understand what completely what he wanted. But once they got it, right, it was apparent to me that they had it, and they were able to dominate down the stretch. No doubt about it. And again, one thing about and I listened to Coach Jackson, I've interviewed him a couple times, is when he's explaining the game to me, much like Coach Cole, he explains the game in a simple way. You understand what I'm saying? In a very simple, matter-of-fact way. And I'm sure he's able to teach the game in that same way. Not only teach it to the players, but I think this, Lionel, more importantly, he's able to teach the game to his coaching staff and allow them to understand what he really wants. Because I think that's what's important ultimately for the head coach, and that he's able to pass the knowledge on to his assistant coaches, and they're able to get out what out of the players what's necessary for whatever system, program, or scheme that they're trying to run on that particular Saturday afternoon. That's what's important, is that the assistant coaches are able to convey that to the players. And I think Coach Jackson makes, the complex sound very simple sometimes, in my opinion. Especially to a layman like myself. Even though I played football or whatever, when you talk about organizational structures and everything that goes into a college, an organization putting players on the field and then winning games, Just think about all of that, and think about when he is explaining about what the dog mentality is all about, what Prairie View has come here to do. It makes it simple. And I think this is something that he was able to identify very early. It wasn't long. He wasn't very long in the SWAC before he did this, right?
Down in the valleys, whoa, whoa. There is a place I want to go. The name of the place ringing in my ear. Atlanta, 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 Atlanta is the land of the purple and gold. Oh, the land of the purple and gold. Gotta get there.
How long was he on campus before he did that? Was he on a month? Was he on campus for a month before that happened? Y'all tell me. Was he on campus? Was he on campus a month? In my opinion, he wasn't on campus a month. And he had came up with Atlanta. And not only did he sing it at practice, they posted it on their website. The man had to have supreme confidence that he knew how to get there. He knew his way to Atlanta. For not only him to put that on his kid's mind, but also release that to the public. Let me see. Mary Kay Ocean said not even a month. But again, I think Coach Tremaine, Coach TJ, he had a plan because he had been in this league before as an assistant coach. He knew what was required. And looking at who he was coaching against in the West, I think he knew the West was his. I think that's the first thing he knew, is that the West was his based on who he was coaching against. Again, I'm willing to say things out loud that other people probably don't feel comfortable saying. And I'll say this. Look at Coach Jackson's resume and look at the resume of the rest of the coaches in the West.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I believe if you put their resumes on paper and you were any kind of hiring authority, you could come up, it wouldn't take you 5 minutes to figure out who was the most qualified coach in the conference. In that division. It wouldn't take you 5 minutes. And I think that's what Coach Jackson knew when he took the job. Lionel, I think he respects his colleagues. I think he respects those men, whether it be Cedric Thomas, Mickey Joseph, what's my man named Chris Dishman, those other guys. I believe he respects those guys. But when you put resume to resume up, matter of fact, you can combine all 6 of those other resumes, right? All 5 of those other resumes. Would any of them stand? Would that resume of all the other 5 guys, would it stand up to Coach Jackson if you combined them? Y'all tell me. If you put Dishman, Mickey Joseph, Cedric Thomas, what's my man name at Pine Valley?
Alonzo Hampton.
And I'm missing one person, maybe Cedric Thomas.
Said Thomas.
Yeah. If you put all 5 of those guys' resumes together on one sheet of paper, would it match up to Coach Jackson?
Well, and this Asian Cook, I see, put the statement here, right? The man said he doesn't coach; he's a CEO coach, right? So, but this goes into what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, he made it clear, right? He ain't called no play in like 8 years, I think he said, right? You know what I'm saying? He don't have no plan to, right? But again, he's building a program, right? It's about the entire structure and how it works and fits together. That's what he's talking about and discussing. Something that was super interesting to me, right? And I listen, I don't know how everybody does things. So somebody can hear some of this stuff and say, you know what? Oh yeah, they did this at such and such place. That's all great. That's all fine and dandy. But when I hear certain things, like one, he always talks about his coaching tree is important. Well, guess what? If your coaching tree is important, you know what that means to me then? That mentorship is important. That's really what that's saying. Mentorship, not just of players though, but of coaches. So when he talked about the spring game, right, at the press conference too, right, one of these press conferences that they've been doing, he talked about how his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator were the head coaches for the spring games. Well, what is that doing? That's teaching, that's already helping them to understand what that looks like. You know what he said? He said the offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, they don't call plays at the spring game. You know who called plays at the spring game? The assistant coaches. And the assistants to the assistant coaches. What is that teaching them? What do they learn? So again, but that's program, right? That's why I'm starting to understand a little bit more as we had these conversations what he's talking about, because that now what is he doing? What is he building within his own? The reality is though, what he really doing is he making it to where he always got somebody to call on. That's ultimately what he's doing.
He's building his own pipeline.
Building his own pipeline.
So that when a coach goes to Valdosta State and takes a coordinator job, that is his offensive line coach, he has a guy to elevate and put in that position. Or better yet, he knows a guy because he's worked with him before that he can bring on and that can implement what he wants. Here's my point about Coach Jackson. I think Coach Jackson knows what it looks like. He knows what it smells like. He knows what it tastes like, right? And if his assistant coaches cook it up and it don't taste right, what he tell them to do? Go back in the kitchen, use this much flour, use this much sugar, use this much baking soda, and bring it back out. You know, again, I would even say this, you know, using the food analogy, executive chefs don't necessarily cook though, but they're the owners of the recipes, aren't they? They create the recipe, and I think whether he calls the plays or not, Prairie View is using Coach Jackson's recipe. Someone had a question for me that I think will follow into this. Somebody asked me, Dooley, Bubba, and T-Jack, what was, okay, the guy says Rocky.
Yeah, that was me. Hey, this is Isaiah. Rocky, pleasure to meet you. Yeah, pleasure to meet you. I listen to you all the time. I think that sometimes I disagree with you, but most of the time
that's all right. Hey, we can disagree as men. It's okay.
So, and by the way, I'll be at the Baylor game. So
I will
tailgate as well.
And I'm trying to think about what me and Lionel can do. If Lionel's gonna be here, man, and maybe if he, I don't know if y'all gonna be here Friday night or something. Maybe we could do something, man.
That'd be
hang
cool.
out a little bit and you know, we have some really nice places around town that we can
That'd
sit
be
down
cool.
and chop it up. But anyway,
so let me back up for a second, because the first thing you talked about was the Atlanta thing. I talked to Coach about that, right? And essentially that was just an accident, right? He was just kind of going off the cuff. That was a regular practice that he didn't know they were recording, the media team. And so they had recorded it and posted it, and it just went viral. But it wasn't like a planned thing. And you know, that's
he
the
didn't
song.
back off of it though. Come on,
No. He ran with it. He definitely ran with it.
Yeah. But he said from the press conference that he's not talking big. He's telling you what's going to happen, right? So from the press conference, he made it clear that we're going to go win. And even another interview, and I got it. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. He said, "Listen, if you think it's going to take me 3 years to win here, I'm a white man." That's a real statement. That's a real
so
statement.
so let me tell you.
I think he said that on our show.
Yep, he sure did. He
Yeah,
sure
he said
did.
that on our show.
He sure did. And you know
Now-
what? Let me tell you something about Coach, right? Because I know Lionel knows, kind of some of the stuff that I try to do behind the scenes with the program, etc. But nevertheless, one of the things that I respect about Coach Jackson and getting to know him since he's been at PV, he's very much so. I see him as a businessman just as much as I see him as a coach. Some of the things that he's either tried to do or have done at PV to promote the program moving forward, I can't say that we've ever had a coach in recent history to even attempt doing, let alone execute on doing this stuff. And so I can go into full detail about that, but I just want to first start by saying that. To go more about what you're talking about, I think a lot of people don't realize, like, PV, this is the first head coach we've had, and this is no disrespect to our former head coaches, but this is the first head coach we've had that had prior head coach experience since Frazier, who won us a championship in 2009. Right. And so we went, pretty much Simmons, Dooley, Bubba, which they really didn't, until those bullets are live, you really don't know, okay, when I get in this situation with my position coaches, and like Bubba talked about, hey, guys that I want on the field are not playing. Well, you're the head coach, right? But until you get in those situations, you don't really know how to mold that. Well, Coach Jackson's kind of done that 2 times previous before coming to PV. So it was the right time, right placement, right situation, right fit that I think you're exactly spot on with. He just knew, if I get this specific job, I know exactly to the T what I would do, what churches I'm gonna go promote in the community to promote the program to, how I'm gonna set up recruiting. Like, a lot of people don't realize we have a student worker team of about, I think it was up to like 20 people. So whenever a recruit's film is sent into the program, it goes to the GM, Dr. Williams, but first it transfers to those students, and they have like a checklist. They train them to go through, and they say boom, 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 and then this gets a recruit's thing pushed up to where it gets to Dr. Williams, then the coaching staff, then the TJAC. So by the time, right, a recruit's film gets to TJAC, it's been reviewed by so many people that I think that's part of their secret sauce, and giving us some gems about how they do that. Exactly, that's my point. He has a system, and I've never seen a coach in my full life of supporting PV since I was a kid, right? I've never seen a coach have quite that worked out, and for them to come in such a short time and say, hey, we're going to get students that are already on campus and work study or however they do it to train them, and also segue opportunities, kind of like an internship during the school year, into saying, hey, if you have an interest in coaching, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, whatever, right? We're going to show you exactly what we want, what we expect. We're going to tell you, hey, this is your polo, right? This is how we do things. And it's already preset. It's not second guessing. So he's very confident in his system because he's done it before. So that's my point. I agree with you wholeheartedly on this, that the system is just.
Well, let me say a couple things about what you just mentioned. One, and I'm gonna put this on the entire SWAC, since I've been watching SWAC football since 2020, right? They do a poor job. The SWAC does a poor job of hiring experienced coaches, meaning that it almost seems as if experience doesn't matter when it comes to head coaching, when they give a guy a head coaching job, or when they select a guy from a head coaching job. Just about exclusively, all the guys that have been hired since I've been watching SWAC football have all of them has been first year, first time coaches.
I agree.
Now, I don't know what they did back in the 1990s. I don't know what they did in the 80s, and I don't know what they did in the early 2000s. But you think hiring a guy like Marshall Falk after 1 year of assistant coaches would be an anomaly in coaching, right? But it's actually not when you look at some of the hires the SWAC has made since 2020.
You know what, Rocky? I think that we're guilty, in this recent span of history, right? I think we're guilty of, and let me back up. Every program has different dynamics. So, it's not a one shoe fit all situation. Like, for example, at Southern, I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. I think for a while there they've been stuck in the heydays and what worked in the heydays, but the game has evolved even just from 2020, let alone from 2000 to 2020. So I think sometimes that gets kind of caught up. But my other thing is this: when it comes to that, I think it's starting to change. I think we're finally starting to get it, but it hasn't. It hasn't really been something that I feel like each program has taken, even our own has taken of utmost, seriousness, right? Like, it doesn't make sense for a PV for our program. Like, I don't feel like we need a celebrity, right?
I'll push back on this, Isaiah. I'm gonna push back on you.
What you got
for this? You say they've learned. We saw Chennis Berry come into the MEAC and win 2 back-to-back MEACs as a experienced coach. We saw T-Jack do the same thing that Chennis Berry did as an experienced coach. What did one of the biggest brands in HBCU football go do? They did something that was antithetical to that.
Right.
In hiring an experienced coach. They went and got a guy who was a celebrity coach with very little coaching experience.
I agree. I agree.
Things like that, does coaching experience really matter? I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest brands in HBCU football, and what do? They don't follow the successful blueprint. They go for the long shot.
I think the answer is in the statement, though. Deion is an anomaly within himself as an athlete, as a personality. He has a lot of soft skills, and also has a lot of backing behind his brand that he's been developing long before he was even that, into head coaching, right? And so I think that, unfortunately, my personal opinion, Isaiah's opinion, is what you saw with Deion at Jackson State is not going to translate at Southern with Marshall Faulk. Right?
I don't care if it. Listen to what I'm saying. If I'm Southern, I'm not even going after that because that is a long shot. What I'm saying is, if I'm Southern, a blue blood, a HBCU juggernaut of a brand, T-Jack is going to have to tell me no first before I go look at anybody.
Correct. Right. And that would make sense. No. That would make a whole lot of sense. Right. But like I said, that to my earlier point, I don't think we've always taken it, at least that perspective, as serious from just it makes a lot of sense. Somebody that has the fit, the program, they know the area, they understand it. Like, I'll give Jackson their credit, even with them saying, hey, we're going to get, Coach Prime and try to go after that. I think the intent was always, if this doesn't even work out, TC Taylor's our guy. And so what they did was, hey, can you just stay on? You're the head coach and waiting. You'll be able to kind of formulate at halftime to really know, like, you're the next man up. Like, this is all yours whenever this move, however this long this goes. That was a very smart move, right? Even though TC was never, a head coach prior, right? But he did have a track record and success. I think sometimes, like I guess I'm just gonna call a spade a spade. If I'm Pine Bluff, I don't see how Alonzo Hampton makes a lot of sense at this time, because you need to, in my opinion, get your culture set. You need to get your program set. And even though you may not have the most resources, the best way to do that is to have somebody that's a proven winner, right? That they're proven, right? Like, they can come in, put their plan in. If they're the right fit, they know that Arkansas area, and they can work it to the best of their advantage. Like, that gives yourself, the best shot possible, in my opinion.
Well, let me refute something that co-pilot put in there. It says, Rocky knows about as much about SWAC football as PV. That's not what I'm saying. But this is the one I'm talking about. It says, SU hired Dooley from PV as an experienced coach. That's not why they hired Dooley. They hired Dooley as their guy. Like, Dooley hadn't won a championship or anything like that. I'm saying that Tremaine Jackson had won a championship in the SWAC. He went to the Celebration Bowl. He had played for a Division II championship and had what is his winning percentage? Like 650, 600?
Yeah.
Something like that. maybe even higher than that. My point is to say that Dooley was on the same level as Tremaine Jackson, I think is quite preposterous in my opinion.
Well, they definitely run the program different. And
No. What I'm saying is, as coaches and as resumes.
I mean, for sure, a resume standpoint, 1,000%. I mean, Dooley has success all over the SWAC, and that's great. But it was all as position coaches under somebody else. It really wasn't like he had a part to play in it for sure, but it wasn't his system. So he was still the resumes are not the same. I agree with you there. And I think you're right. You know, Southern definitely went after Dooley as his guy. I think Dooley kind of played his cards wrong, though.
What is the coach at Southern that they've been trying to recapture his magic? I forget the guy's name.
Coach Pete Richardson.
Yeah, yes, that's what they were trying to recreate that.
Yeah,
at Southern, don't you think?
Oh no, 1,000%. They've been trying to do that since he was the coach. That's the problem. The game has evolved beyond that point, right? For me, like I said, outside looking in, just Isaiah's opinion, right? I didn't understand why it made a lot of sense to not pay Odoms when Dawson Odoms was there. He was killing this way. He really was doing a great job, and he came in. He took that job with his hands tied behind his back. They had APR issues. They could only practice a limited amount of time. I think they had scholarship limits or something at one point in time, right? So for him to have success so quickly, right, and to be able to sustain kind of I don't think he ever had a losing season at Southern. Even with all of that, right, just pay them in, right? Because I felt like that would have given them continuity. They would have been able to play that out a little bit longer. But they're gonna make decisions that they feel like is best, and it's political there. So we understand that about them. That's they're gonna have to live and die with whatever results from those things. But like I said, I think Dooley was their guy. It didn't work out, and I think Dooley just didn't play his cards right. Had he stayed at PV a little bit longer, maybe got back to the championship and actually won it, and then made the jump, I think it would have been just a little bit different for him. And then also, he's an interesting personality for sure. So, yeah, it's different strokes for different folks, I guess.
Yeah, but I like I said, I think to kind of talk about go back to the ranking, because I want to say this before I get off, is that I think, in my opinion, I don't think at this point I can in good conscience rank PV above Jackson State. And I have doubts about ranking them above Alabama State, to be perfectly honest with you, Lon. Because of, one, Jackson State has a quarterback coming back and a pretty formidable team coming back. And when I say recent history, I'm not just talking about last year, Lionel. I'm talking about, the last 4 years, and what they've been able to do the last 4 years, regardless of where they're ranked, where they're set to finish. You understand what I'm saying? Like a couple of those years, they weren't picked to finish, to win, and they ended up winning or finishing up around the top. So again, with that being said, I have an issue with Grambling even being in this ranking at all. I have an issue with that. What has Grambling shown you in recent history that they're a top 10 HBCU program? But
who would you have there? I mean, that's the thing, right?
You may not like it, but I would probably put Delaware State there.
It's not that I don't like it, right? You know what I'm saying? I had Delaware State as the next out, right? You know what I mean? But again, if you got Delaware State there, then where you don't have Grambling in the top 10 at all. That's what you say.
Yeah.
So you have Alabama A&M, Florida A&M is fine for you?
Florida A&M is fine. I have questions about Alabama A&M as well. But then what I end up struggling with is who do you put in that spot? And then if I go with who I think will land there at the number 10 spot, I'm really just doing it off of hoping, and mine would be Norfolk State. I'm not sure they would be, but I'm hoping they would be. You know what I mean?
I mean, they come.
And
You talking about recent history? They coming off of one.
no. But again, I think you can throw Alabama A&M and Norfolk in the same bucket.
How?
I mean, look at what was Alabama A&M last year in the SWAC. Were they 1-7?
I want to say they. That's a good question. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Yeah, they were 1-7 too, and I mean I can't remember what they didn't do. Again, I think them and Mississippi Valley kind of finished at around the same, if I'm not mistaken.
They must probably had 2 wins. I'm guessing. No, they were 1-7. You're right. They were 1-7 in conference. So 1-7, 4-8 overall, 1-7 in conference. Grambling finished 3rd last year, 4-4, 7-5. I mean, I basically just had them in the same spot as they were last year.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is with Grambling, they don't have a quarterback returning that had any significant time. The last game they played, they lost to a horrible Southern team.
This is facts. This is fact. This is why I like I say, I don't believe Mickey Joseph showing you enough to where you trust him to necessarily vie to win the West, right? But again, if I'm judging him against, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Texas Southern, I feel is moving backwards, and Southern is just a complete we have no idea how bad that's going to be this year, right? So I'm also basing a little bit against what else is available too as well.
So in other words, what you're saying is you would bet against Texas Southern and bet on Grambling, is what you're simply saying. In this.
Those are the 2 teams, yeah, for sure. I would definitely bet on Grambling, right? You just talked about Alabama A&M, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could say Delaware State, you could see them as higher. Norfolk is more of a hope. But again, to me, if you go through all of the teams, and because I'm not including the cousins, right? I'm just looking at MEAC SWAC, right? So if I'm looking at all of these teams, right, all 18 teams, to me, I still have Grambling as one of those, and that lands in the top.
Let me ask you this. Now, this is a team that I'm not sure how they're going to finish, but they showed some signs of life last year. Where would you put Bethune-Cookman in this match? In this mix, would you bet on Bethune-Cookman against Grambling, or bet on Grambling against Bethune-Cookman?
I think it's a toss-up, right? I really would say it really depends on where they are at that point in the season. But, I guess I really like Grambling class, right? I like Grambling's transfer class, and that's probably why I'm higher on them than maybe other programs too as well, which again is a little hopefulness, you know what I'm saying, as well. But I'm looking at where they finished last year, right? What their class looked like, and kind of saying, okay, I think they probably going to slot based in the same position that they've been, which is right around that 500 mark. You know what I'm saying?
Again, well, the 2 things not
because they beat JSU, right? I mean, they did beat Jackson, right? They lost the horrible Southern team, and they beat the team who everybody had winning everything. But that's Grambling for you, okay? That's Mickey Joseph and his program at this point, right? To where they should have lost to a Kentucky State team, right? You know what I'm saying? But yet, so that's my thing, right? Grambling is all over the place. You know what I'm saying? There's zero consistency with Grambling, right? You know what I mean?
And again, they showed up and played some really good teams, really tough. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I don't doubt that.
Same with Bethune too.
Yeah, I'm just simply saying when you look at Grambling, do you're saying based on recruiting they're on ascension, right? They're an ascending program.
I don't know if they're on ascension. I just think I like their class this year, right? That's what I was saying. I like some of the pieces they got this year. I don't necessarily think they're on ascension per se, right?
So you think essentially they're going to be what they were last year?
I think they're just middle of the pack. They're a crumbling dynasty overall. That's what they are, right? You know what I'm saying?
Lionel, I think I would probably take out. I can't see the list anymore now, but I would probably take out. No, I would probably take out Graham and Alabama A&M and go 8 Texas Southern / Delaware State, and then 9 be Bethune-Cookman. I just think, for me,
you can have 8, 9, and then Bethune-Cookman 10 and just move Florida A&M out the way too.
And if I think FAMU's kind of hard because as of recent, right, they've had success, but they've also had some failure. And I think, we know this upcoming season kind of already ruled out for them. I do trust Quinn Graves coaching, but I don't know, right, if they're expecting like a quick turnaround like T-Jack and Chennis Berry, I don't think from what they've done recruiting wise up until this point, they've shown me that that's going to be something they're going to.
Well, my issue with them is they're going to have to deal with Eddie Robinson. They're going to have to deal with TC Taylor.
Yeah.
They're also going to have to deal with Bethune-Cookman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, not only that, when you look at that, aren't they hosting Prairie View as well?
We don't play them this year.
They're hosting.
They host Southern.
Okay.
They host Southern. Yeah. I think they host Southern. I agree. They also have a somewhat challenging conference schedule slate. So, and 1,000%, there's some better teams right now than them in the East. If you're asking me, but like I said, I just think Grambling and A&M are just very suspect to me because they've been subpar for a while now.
The guys on the West, in my opinion, can end up with worse records, but end up being better teams than some of the guys some teams on the East.
I agree.
Can end up with worse records and actually be better than teams on the West. Maybe if FAMU may have a worse record this upcoming season, but actually be better than Graham.
Well,
if you understand.
Sometimes I get what you're saying. I think sometimes, right, but other times, right, like I don't know, because there's definitely been seasons where I know for us we played teams from the East when people are like, oh, the West is weak, and we'll beat majority of the teams outside of at the time it was just two top heavy teams, which was just FAM and Jackson. Either we did not play them in conference, because the rotation wasn't there, or we may have dropped it or whatever. But like I said, like just even with Bubba's last year, we beat FAMU at home, right? So, and I know they had Cozy and all that, but my point is, I don't know. I think sometimes it gets we overlook some of the head-to-head matchups when it comes to that, right? But that's neither here nor there. Like I said, I would probably change out line on 8 and 9 if it were me. I just don't trust Alabama A&M. I don't know. Huge, I don't know. And then Grambling is suspect to me.
Yeah, I really would like to see Delaware State in there. If nothing else, based on what they did last year.
Yeah.
And how you can project another year of experience for Coach Jackson and what they could possibly put on the field next year. Again, all this to get hashed out at some point.
For sure. It's going to get hashed out in the field. But I definitely want to – I found the statement from T-Jack. I want to get y'all comments real quick before we go. This is a great conversation. I really want to get into some PFF talk, tonight. But I guess that's just to sprinkle a little bit, so on top. But I just want to show this quick clip real quick. Man, we just comment on that. And then we'll let you go, and then we'll probably come back another day, right, and probably talk a little bit more about some of these PFF grades and things of that nature. Because I really, really want to get into some details of that as we talk about the programs moving forward and stuff. But just so we clear, right? I don't know if y'all can see this. I don't know if y'all can see this here, but we just looking at the run blocking grades from last year, and I'll say there's only one school with 3 guys in the top 10. And last I checked, all them 3 guys coming back. You know what I'm saying? So no matter who behind center, we're going to be able to tote that rock. That's all I know, Rocky. You know what I'm saying? So there's only 3 guys on this list. One number 1, one number 4, and one number 7. The last I checked, all 3 of them coming back. And everybody else on that top 10 list ain't coming back for their program, Rocky. So I want to say that first and foremost. You know what I'm saying? It's just a sneak peek as we're going to be looking at some of these PFF numbers and talk about some of these guys, man, that are returning to these programs around. But let's hear what T-Jack said here. And I just want to get you guys' comments before you go, Isaiah and Rocky.
But it's about teaching within the game and allow that in terms of life.
Yeah, I think if you can't teach people, you can't lead people. And so there's a lot of people out here trying to lead folks. And 1, they can't lead themselves. And 2, they've never been taught anything or taught anybody anything. And so then what you create is chaos. And then you just start hollering and screaming and trying to get people to move. And nobody's going to listen to somebody that doesn't benefit them in any way. And so what we try to do is benefit our players, our coaches. I think the job of the head football coach is to make sure teaching is always happening within the program. There was a time today in the game, I pulled Coach Buck aside and said, when there's 27 seconds left in the half and you just had a second down that didn't go your way, don't line back up and throw it again. Just kneel that out when there's no timeouts left, get to the half, keep it 7-7. Well, sometimes as coaches, we want to call our next play where you put the team in a bad situation when you do that. Now, I had to learn that myself as a coordinator, right? And so I think I have a responsibility and obligation to pass down learned lessons. And the first thing he said was, man, Coach, you're right. I had to tell Coach Anderson, you got to look at your team and how enthused they are and make sure they're not so enthused that they can't focus. There's levels to it. You got to be able to be enthused, but you still got to be able to execute at a high level. And so what are you going to do to tone your team down and keep them locked in so you don't get locked out of an opportunity, right? And so those are just things I think that we're paid to do. We're at an institution of higher learning in a learning environment every single day. We don't let our coaches sit down in meetings and things of that nature. They don't sit down in the biology building. So why are we sitting down over here? We keep them in teaching environments. And I think that's just something that we picked up along the way from some of the great coaches I've been around, and then added our flavor to it. We haven't always been in places with high levels of talent. So how do you still compete without high levels of talent? You got to teach them to be smarter than their opponent. And then they got to play with high levels of enthusiasm. I worked at the University of Sioux Falls. Man, some jokers couldn't play dead down here. But they won because they learned and they knew how to play with one another, and they never were going to get mental errors. Wasn't going to do it. You might be faster, you might be stronger. They were not going to get mental errors, and they played for the pride for one another. Well, that's how you win in the Midwest. That's why all the national champions came from the Midwest this year in college football, because that's how you win. And so we've just kind of always taken that approach. I really think that's why we've had the success that we've had. And I got taught.
That was the thoughts. Man, what's y'all thoughts on that, man? And just as we close out here, man, final thoughts, Isaiah, Rocky, on kind of that thought process. Because to me, when I first initially heard it, I said, yeah, that right there is like a nugget that he really just dropped. And I don't know if everybody caught it, right? Because the truth is, there really is a reason that some programs, year in, year out, Rocky, you don't have a conversation about whether you're going to put North Dakota State in the top 10. Not in FBS now, right? But there's never a conversation. South Dakota State, you're not having no conversation. Montana, you're not having no conversation, right? It don't matter if they don't have multiple coaches leave. There's something that's there at the program that you enter in, and this is just how we do things, right? And so, to me, the nugget he shared right here, I think he's one of those guys who just knows how to win, man. But what are you guys' thoughts before we close out here?
Well, what I hear is that he has the formula. He knows what it, like I said, he knows what it looks like. But more importantly is he's not depending on getting superior talent in order to win. He's going to be able to win with just being a competent professional team, right? And he's taking and this is a nugget. He's taking the responsibility off of the players to be successful and squarely putting it on the coaches' backs. You understand what I'm saying? Because he's not talking about talent and what kids are in their ability. He's talking about what they're able to instill in players and what you can expect. And to your point about South Dakota and North Dakota State, what you trust is when they play a guy, you don't look at whether or not what his ranking or where he was recruited at. You understand that if North Dakota State puts a kid out on the field, you know he's going to know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. That's what you trust.
That's
and
fact.
He's not going to beat himself. So what I think Coach T-Jack is saying pretty much the kind of team that we're going to have at Prairie View is We may not be the most talented, but if we put them on the field anywhere, from quarterback, running back, tight end, linebacker, whatever, they're going to know what to do, how to do it, when to do it. And that's going to secure. And again, I think that's enough to win in the SWAC. And I think coach knows that.
Yeah, for me,
Right.
for me, real quick. I know it's getting late. I think his experience is showing, right? If I'm a young coach, right, I'm want to get a head coaching job. I think he just gave you a 15, 20-second answer to a question about how would you come in and build culture in a program as a first-time head coach, right? How would you go about? I think he really framed it in a way, right, that anybody can understand. He keeps it simple, right? And that's just experience. And that, to me, it shows that somebody who cares about their program. There's not a lot of coaches talking like that in general in the profession. There's definitely not coaches in the SWAC talking like that, right?
He said something that I thought was real interesting. And I want to ask you guys how you took it. He said, if you ain't been taught nothing, you can't teach
nothing.
What did he mean by that?
Yeah.
Because he's talking about men who are professionals in their field. And why would they be in a position to be a head coach, position coach, coordinator if they ain't been taught nothing?
Well, I think this also goes to the fact that you're trying to build men too, right? You're trying to mentor someone, right? Because that's really what it is. It's just packaged in the game of football, right? But if you haven't been on the other side and learned what it is to be able to hear something, take such love, and know that this person means well, if you haven't learned how to submit to authority, even though you may feel that they're incorrect or this is wrong, and then later down the line you see exactly why they had you do it the exact way they asked you to do it. Well, then now how are you going to turn around? Not just teach, because you're not just teaching the information. You see what I'm saying? You're teaching more than the information. You're also teaching how to frame it, right? You're also teaching the relationship at the same exact time, how to receive. Well, it's hard for you to do that if you haven't been in the position as well. So it to me, it makes perfect sense, right? You know, in order to teach someone something, you have to have been able to learn at some period of time.
And I'll take it a step further, Rocky. I would say, even if you haven't learned some of these things that you're trying to teach, right? There's a lot of wisdom, and I think that's the extra part, right? There's a lot of wisdom in going to seek wise counsel on those things you don't know to learn it from the right place, so you can then experience it, learn it, experience it, and then be able to teach it confidently. There's a lot of coaches that are teaching things that they don't confidently believe in, and it shows in their program. It shows in how their athletes talk about the program. It shows on how they treat the program, right? And he's not lied since he's been at Prairie View from day one when he was hired. He said, you have to be our type of player to play here, right? That's not just, you can be a 5-star, all this and all of that. That's fine, right? And we like that. But if you don't fit the mold, Lionel can tell you, just like I know, we've had some really, really talented guys that if y'all knew they were on our roster, y'all would be like, there's no way PV has this guy or these guys on the roster. But they could not make it from spring or from summer to fall. Because when you go through every step of this process for this program, they could not fit that mold that says you have to do these things. This is the expectation. Like, it's either this or here's the door.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's what I took from what he said.
The last thing I want to ask you guys is something that I heard Coach Jackson say about recruiting and transfers, as how he wanted a mature player, and I think he said something to the fact that he doesn't want to depend on 18, 19-year-olds in order to retain his job or employment. He would much prefer to have a more mature, seasoned guy on his staff. How do you guys think that's going to play out long term as the transfer portal, this era of college football matures and grows, and considering APR has already bid a couple schools already. How do you think that's going to play at Prairie View for Coach Jackson?
I think in all things, balance is required. He says that, but he also states, right, like it's not that they're anti-high school.
Right.
It's just in post 2020 NCAA football, particularly at the FCS level, and even more specific at the HBCU level, right? This is the new kind of ingredients they value in as far as winning, right? And doing that in a short-term basis, right? Which he's now proven to do. And so I think they have a really good support team as far as the APR handle. So I don't really see that getting out of control for Prairie View because it's not something that's not, monitored, right? They have a whole ordeal for that.
It's a whole structure behind. Just like you got a structure for recruiting, there's a whole structure in place
Correct.
for the academic side too.
Right. And so, and he knows that it's reflective on him if he leaves a program, if he goes off to take a Power 5 or, G5 job, and now Prairie View's in shambles because of APR. Well, that's still a reflection of him. And
now I've heard that because I've heard the APR situation. This is just someone who does not know very much about it, but it's more of a institutional. It's put in the coaches and the team's lap to deal with, but it speaks more of an institutional issue than actually a recruiting transfer issue. Would you guys agree with that characterization? Or
I'm not an APR expert by any means, but I would imagine at the end of the day, a lot of this stuff comes down to resources first, right? And then just your structure, right? Like PV, we have a few things. We're not just rolling in money, so don't let you think that, right? But I would say, keep in mind, we've had several coaches in a short time span and several ADs, and we've changed presidential leaderships, whereas our previous president, I love her to death, but athletics was not a priority for her, right?
I pointed that out in one of my lives.
You did.
I said that to say that there's something going on in Prairie View. I don't know what it is, but whatever is going on in Prairie View, it transitions from coach to coach, AD to AD, and I didn't even acknowledge president to president.
Yeah, you're spot on. You're spot on. There is something wrong. I just think that honestly, and Lionel can tell you his opinion on this as well. If you ask some of us diehard PV fans, we'll tell you we should have been in this position and won a championship years ago, right? We built that stadium in 2016, and we've had different little marks to kind of get us in position to do it. But quite frankly, we've taken our own self out of position to actually do the thing because of ancillary stuff off the field, right? Like, coaches having salaried positions that they just would not fill for assistant coaches, right? Like you have a whole salary dedicated in the budget for you to have a quarterback coach, and you just don't go and hire one. Well, we're doing that to ourselves. We're not, other places wish they had the budget to do a few extra things. And here you are just not taking advantage of the opportunity. So we've had a lot of internal struggles like that, it doesn't really get out, and, it's our business. But that alone, right, has been just as much as a problem as it is the on the field play for us. And so, it's just now what's happened is our president is aligned. She's very athletic focused, right? Our AD is very athletic focused, and our coach, who has experience, is very athletic focused. And I think that's why this last season happens at a Prairie View so quickly. Because he'll even tell you, right, like, yes, we expected to be in position to do a championship just because of the, how you talked about the SWAC West and, kind of the level of play and coaching. But truthfully, we were ahead of schedule this past season with how things kind of shook out, right? Because there were still a lot of things that they're just now doing that we didn't have in place, right? Like, Coach ain't lying. I'll just leave it at that. Coach is not lying about, hey, we don't have these detailed things that other normal college programs, even at lower levels, have going on that we can't afford to do. It's not that we can't do it. It's just we just weren't doing it.
Well, I'll tell you this, and this was coming from Coach Cole last year I want to say he came during summer workouts last year, and we may even mentioned it on the show, that he called me leaving Prairie View campus, and he said, Prairie View is going to be hell next year. That was his exact words. He say they're going to be hell next year, because he was just looking at the organization, the structure, and then how the men, he said they got some men over there. This is what coach said. They got some men over there. And he was talking about the players and how they were working and how they were owning the program and how Coach Jackson had Coach Cole's, one of Coach Cole's deals is he's a great play caller and all that kind of stuff, but he was always big on organizational structure. The organizational structure has to be right. It has to be organized where accountability is not up to who's responsible for what. Everybody knows what they're responsible for, and there's no finger pointing. And we're talking about among coaches and administrators. There's no finger pointing.
And that carries over. You're right on, Rocky. That carries right over into Coach Jackson's program, and it shows that he learned that from Coach Cole, because there's little things that people don't know, right? Like the players can't walk into any of the athletic facilities, right, with a do-rag on. They can't go in there with a hoodie on. Right? There's no ambiguity about what is the expectation. What is the next step? If I do this, this is a direct result, good or bad.
And this is the consequence, right? Like everything's laid out.
And I'm gonna take it even further, right? Because we're all Black men here, right? For a lot of our younger Black men in our community, sometimes we don't have that direction, and we desperately crave it, right? That hey, like this is the structure I need to be, right? Kind of molded into being that successful person that I can be.
So this is the last point I'll make. And when I talked to Coach Cole and he explains to me what his programs looked like, whatever, I'll say this. His programs looked like a family that was led by a stern disciplinarian as a father. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is there was a structure and organization there that everybody knew what it was. And so the big brother could make sure the little brothers knew what the father expected. So it didn't not much really got to him because it was already handled by, there were certain things that daddy had instilled in the older boys that it kind of like trickled down. And so what I mean by that is Coach Cole, the way he's never used this term, but it seemed like a very fatherly, family style hierarchy in his program. Meaning that it was just expected to be that way. And if it wasn't that way, for instance, here's one of the things Coach Cole used to say. He would never holler at a player for having slippers, do-rags, or anything like that. He said because somebody saw him walking in the facility. So if another player didn't address him, another coach didn't address him, how did he get all the way into the locker room?
That's who I'm addressing everything else around it. I'm addressing the structure that allowed it in the first place.
Yes.
Right.
That's kind of like as fathers, what we do is we set up the guidelines for which everybody has to function around.
Yes.
You understand? And it's not just, it's again, being a father, you have to understand that you can't see everything, but you need eyes everywhere. You understand? And anybody who has children know what I mean by that. You won't be able to see everything, but you need eyes everywhere. And that's kind of how Coach Cole kind of ran his program, in that the standard was a standard. And it seems like Coach Jackson has that same kind of overarching theme about everybody responsible for upholding the standards of this program.
It's the exact same thing. When you hear Coach Jackson talk about it, he says this is a parentally run organization. He's very clear, and he said it multiple times, multiple places, multiple interviews. He also talked about in one of the press conferences that Yeah, he talked about in the press conference that they don't stretch in position groups. They actually stretch in what they call families. So there's a family leader, right?
Okay.
That player oversees the rest of the players in his family unit, right?
Okay.
And so everything you're saying, right? Yeah, he talked about learning from other coaches who's done it in different places, putting his own flavor on it. So it's exactly what you're saying, right? And I think, like I say, right, when you just understand the level of detail and organization, it's just different, right? You know what I'm saying? And I think, again, it teaches so much more past football, which is, again, the whole goal in the first place, right? Is to teach past that. But, man, I appreciate all you guys.
Hey, Lana, let me just say this.
Go ahead, Zay.
I'm gonna jump. I promise you, I'm gonna jump off. Hey, Rocky, I challenge you. Go to the PV Football YouTube channel and listen to when they interview the players, any of the players. Notice how what they're saying mirrors what Coach Jack has either said in a previous interview you've done with him, or anything he says post the conversation with the student athlete, right? Because you'll hear the same statements, the same terms. You won't hear them say the team. Sometimes you'll hear them say the collective.
The collective, yeah.
Because that's how, if you notice, I watched the interview. When you first interviewed Coach Jackson, when he first was hired, y'all said, well, how are you going to pick your quarterback? The collective picks the quarterback, and that's who we roll with, right? That's culture. That's system. So I encourage you, definitely go, whenever there's a player interview, just listen to what the player's saying, because the players are the ones who, after the system is set, they're the ones who really implement, right, expectations far more than the coaches do, after that first year. That's the genius of it all, because they buy-in is not even a thing. This is what we do.
Right.
I don't know any other way. And like you're saying, as a father, right, I'm not a father yet, but I would imagine, right, you train your children in the way that they go. And so if they don't know any other way, they just know the way you're leading them, right? Then that's what they're gonna lean on when they have to make decisions independently. So
everybody knows this, whoever been a father, been around a father. And when your kid says, well, at little Johnny's house, and you say, but here at our house, this is what we do. And any dad is going to have that conversation. You get ready, Lana. Your little one's probably aren't there quite yet. But they're going to tell you what's going on at little Johnny's house and what they're allowed to do. They get ice cream in the morning, for breakfast.
Hey, listen.
And you're going to have to tell them over here.
Hey, listen, that you pray and you hope that when they're at Johnny's house, they'll say, I'm not even eating ice cream right now, because that's not what we do. Okay. Absolutely. Ice cream is for after I eat my dinner. But man, I appreciate Rocky. I appreciate everybody else, Joe, everybody else that called in to come on. Hey, Rocky, we're gonna be talking a lot of ball talk on here, over the next few weeks, man, leading up to SWAC Media Day. So first and foremost, you always welcome back. Because we're gonna be breaking down some film, man. We're gonna be like
I heard you call my name as I was getting out of here. What was that?
Oh, yeah, no. I was just sharing that, we're going to be doing a lot of ball talk from now to SWAC Media Day. So we're going to be breaking down some film. We're going to be, looking at some deep diving into PFF, right? So you're always welcome back on when you got our deep dive sessions and things of that nature, because I know you're a ball talk type of guy. You know what I'm saying? So look forward to some of that, because we're about to really start diving into some stuff here, and some general SWAC stuff too, not just like even PV related, but like some general stuff as well.
Also, I like those shorts you're doing about the transfers, recruits, and stuff like that, man. That's pretty dope, man. I appreciate that, because a lot of times it's just hard gathering that kind of information for
sure.
FCS schools, man. And I appreciate that.
That's why I appreciate all the content creators for each of the teams, right? It even helps me, right, when I'm trying to look at other teams and see what's going on, right? So, you know what I mean? So I just wanted to let you know that, man, because you'll be seeing some stuff pop up. So if you see anything, you want to jump in the conversation or anything, man, we're trying to have trying to do a lot more analysis, you know what I'm saying, this off season than I think we've done before previously. And I think the culture and I think our community will really appreciate a lot of that type of talk. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm looking forward to kind of doing a lot more of that. You know what I'm saying? This leading up to SWAC Media.
And we try to put together some things that I really like you to be a part of, and I'm gonna holler at you about them later on, man. But we really like you to be a part of them, man, because it's pretty dope stuff we got in the works.
No problem, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate that. So, and also, don't make the same mistake people made last year about talking about returning quarterbacks and forgetting that we got a returning quarterback. Because that's what happened last year, and people forgot that Cam Peters was a returning quarterback. Yeah. And this year we do have a guy named Tevin Carter who started multiple games last year. So don't make the mistake of forgetting.
You're right. And again, if I'm not mistaken, Cam came in with a resume and it was ignored the first year that he came in, but he was able to cash in on it that second year. That'll be somewhat like Tevin Carter would.
All I'm trying to say is don't make the same mistake twice by overlooking the fact that we actually got a returner as well. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. But with that said, man, I appreciate you coming on again. Zach, man, you also welcome, man, because we're gonna be trying to do some real ball talk, you know what I'm saying, over the next couple months, man. So you're also welcome on anytime you want to jump on. Again, the recap show of Coach Heights Northern. All right, on Sundays, of course, Productive People on Wednesdays. Tomorrow, make sure you check out Mr. Sid Brass. You know what I'm saying? We're going to have those conversations. PB Nation podcast crew. And then also, again, we talked about our deep dive session. So we didn't do it tonight. So I'll let you know. I'll put it out a little bit early so you guys know, man, we're going to jump. We're going to have some conversations on some PFF grades from last year. Talk about some of the returners that we got coming back. Y'all already saw a sneak peek, man. You know what I'm saying? We talk about running that rock. And you got to have an offensive line to do that. And it seems that there's one SWAC school that got 3 top 10 returners on the offensive line. I'm just saying, okay? You know what I mean? But we're going to talk about all that, right? If y'all want to discuss Delaware State, whoever else, man, we can talk about it. Y'all got any transfers y'all interested in, man? It's dropping down from FBS, LCS over. We can have a look at their information too as well. So we're going to have a good conversation as we keep moving towards SWAC Media Day and beyond. But appreciate all you guys coming on. If you have not subscribed to the channel, though, right? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Go ahead and like this video. Show some love, right? You know what I'm saying? Hit the notification bell so y'all can catch it next time we're on. I'll let y'all.